So why is it that you don't put your finger in an electrical socket? Why? Because it's a mistake. So you either made the mistake, almost made the mistake, or were told by someone else who knew that it was a mistake to do that, right? You have learned from mistakes. So one of the ways you can improve your English is to learn from your mistakes. In this lesson, I am going to show you 10 of the most common grammatical mistakes that people make over and over and over again, whether they're English learners or perhaps American presidents. Verb tenses, apostrophes, capitalization, run-on sentences. These are the obstacles to fluency. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you 10 common English mistakes. Make sure you listen carefully and ask yourself, am I making these mistakes? Let's get to it. Here we go, starting with number 1, using the wrong preposition or using a preposition when you shouldn't. A couple of examples. I arrived at Vancouver should be I arrived in Vancouver. Use at for more specific places like a restaurant or a building. I'm good in sports should be I'm good at sports. So use good at when you're talking about a skill. Another common mistake is I entered in university or I entered to university. The verb enter does not take a preposition at all. So watch those finicky little words called prepositions. Number 2. Using the wrong verb tense. So this could be a full, 12-hour lesson because there are actually 12 verb tenses in English. But I'm going to show you 2 of the most common mistakes. One is overusing the verb will to talk about the future. So I hear this a lot. Hey, what will you do tonight? Or what will you do this weekend? Actually, to talk about your plans, you want to use be going to. What are you going to do tonight? What are you going to do this weekend? Only use will to talk about the future if you're talking about things like offers and promises and threats and maybe a decision you've made in the moment about the future, as in a restaurant. You could say, I'll have the steak, please, because you have just decided what you want to do or have in the future, meaning when the steak arrives. Another common verb tense question. I am living in Vancouver for 13 years. So what I'm doing here is I'm connecting the present right now to the past because I began living in Vancouver 13 years ago. So what I actually want to use is present perfect. I have been living in Vancouver for 15 years. That's the job of present perfect. It connects the past to the present. Number 3. This is more about your written English, but I don't just mean long essays. I mean a little update on Facebook or Instagram. So here it is. Spelling mistakes. If you're writing in English, I really encourage you to use a spell checker. Use a program like Word or Google Docs and make sure the spell checker is on before you post or hand in your writing. Make sure you get the freebie for this lesson where I am going to give you 40 common spelling mistakes with the correct spelling. Super awesome. Moving on. Number 4, subject verb agreement. So your subject, meaning I, she, we, Nessa, the students, and the verb have to match. I hear this a lot. My brother have a job. It should be my brother has because you're using the singular noun, my brother. Or maybe people is. It should actually be people are because people is plural. So make sure your verb and your subject match, that they agree with each other. Number 5, run-on sentences. What's a run-on sentence? So this is really common, especially for students who speak a Latin language like Spanish or Portuguese, ... So what's a run-on sentence? It's a sentence that goes on and on and on, which is a whole bunch of commas trying to connect different clauses. So you can't really do that in English. I'll give you an example of what's wrong and then how to correct it. Here we go. I have a brother, comma, he lives in Montreal, comma, he has a job teaching English. So this should be, I have a brother, period. He lives in Montreal and he teaches English. So there's the problem, just adding a whole bunch of commas, and there's the solution. The solution is you can take these two separate clauses and put a period in between them so you have two separate sentences. Or you can use a relative clause. Instead of he, you could use the pronoun who. So I have a brother who lives in Montreal. That's correct. I have a brother, comma, he lives in Montreal. That is incorrect. That's an example of a run-on sentence. Number 6, common one, using the wrong word because they are similar or they sound similar. So I'll give you one example. 3 words that are all pronounced the same way. Are you ready? There, and there. Even the current president of the United States has made this mistake quite a few times. So make sure you know the difference between there, meaning in that place, there, which is a contraction of they are, and there, meaning belongs to them. Number 7, articles. So a, an, and the 3 articles in English. Well, one of the most common mistakes is forgetting to use a or an with a singular countable noun. Here's an example I see a lot. When I was child, I loved to play volleyball. Well, child is a singular countable noun. You need an article. You need to use a for that sentence to be correct. Again, a little tip for you. A lot of the word programs that you use have a grammar checker. So again, switch it to English when you're writing in English and use the grammar checker to help you. It will catch a lot of those little mistakes. Number 8. This is kind of similar to number 6. Mixing up its and its. So the first its, we're using an apostrophe because it's a contraction of it is. Here's an example. It's a beautiful day today. Let's go for a walk. Its is it is. The other its doesn't take an apostrophe. This is the pronoun that shows possession, meaning belonging to it. Number 9. This isn't a grammar mistake, but it is a mistake. And you can up your fluency by avoiding it. Here it is. Overusing bland, nondescript adjectives like good, bad, and nice. Be more specific when you're describing something. Instead of saying the food is good, say it's delicious or tasty. Instead of saying the party was good, say it was fun. Instead of saying the movie was good, you could say it was exciting, thrilling. And instead of saying the movie was bad, you might use an adjective like boring. So be more specific in your descriptions. And number 10, this is more about written English, but I mean any kind of written English, including your Instagram bio or your Facebook update. Here it is, random capitalization. I see this all the time, and it really gets to me because this is a mistake that we as native English users, we stop making very early in our school years. So here is an example of a mistake, and then I'll give you a couple of rules. I love Vancouver because it, capital I, is gorgeous. So don't randomly capitalize it. Only capitalize the word it if it's beginning a sentence. So it should be, I love Vancouver because it, small I, is gorgeous. So what do we capitalize? In the middle of a sentence, you capitalize the pronoun I. It's the only pronoun that gets capitalized when it doesn't begin a sentence. And proper nouns, meaning people's names, countries' names, subjects like English and math, and also companies' names. So don't randomly capitalize words in the middle of a sentence. So those are my 10 most common English mistakes. Make sure you get your free worksheet that shows you 40 of the most commonly misspelled English words. and the corrections. Just click the links below. And subscribe if you found this lesson helpful. And if you'd like to get in touch, just send me a quick email at nessa@esltopten.com and let me know what lessons you would like to see here in the future. I'd love to hear from you. This is Nessa on ESL Top 10, and I will catch you next time.